So this video is going to give a short demonstration of how to use if in your code. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the user what month it is currently. And whatever they respond with, I'm going to put it in a new variable that I'm creating called month. So remember, we create new variables by using their name for the first time on the left side of an equal sign, and then having some sort of value on the right side of that equal sign. And input is going to be replaced by whatever value the user types in as soon as the program's run and the user types in that value and hits enter or presses OK in the box that pops up. So now I can use if, and I can do a thing such as if month is the same as, let's say, October, then we'll print I'm excited for Halloween. And we'll also print, regardless of what they type in. That's nice. All right, so let's run this program, see what happens. So what month is it? Well, of course, I'm going to type in October. I'm going to hit enter, and it says, I'm excited for Halloween, and that's nice. All right, so what happens if I don't type in October? What happens if I type in November? It just says that's nice. So what happened was we skipped this line of code when I didn't type in October. Okay, so let's break down all the syntax and what's happening here. So we start the if statement, and an if is sometimes called a condition or a branch because we are going to possibly branch around another piece of code. We're going to use some sort of condition, something that's going to be either true or false to decide whether or not we run that next piece of code. So I start with if, and then I have my condition. Some people like to put parentheses around this. That's fine. It won't have any effect, but you don't need to put those parentheses around. I have a variable right here. When I run this code, what's going to happen on this line is month is actually going to be replaced by the value that it has. In fact, whenever we use a variable other than on the left side of an equal sign, that variable, when the code runs, is going to be replaced by its current value. And then we have a double equal sign. This is significant. This is different from a single equal sign. Single equal sign says set the value of this variable to this new value. Double equal sign is a question. It's saying, are these two values equal? Now this is a variable, so that's why we have to replace it with its current value and then say, is the value of month the same as the value October as a string? And finally, we have a colon at the end of that line. Colon is important after an if to indicate, hey, we're done with the condition. We're ready to move on to the next line. The next thing that's very important is that there's some indentation in the next part. There's some indentation to indicate what code is going to be part of this branch, is the code that we're going to run if this statement is true. And there can be more than one line, right? We could also say, I'm excited for Halloween. Fall is my favorite season. Now, both of these lines of code are only going to get run if the month is October, if this is a true statement. Otherwise, it just gets skipped. We just go down to the next place where there's no indentation. If you're in Pyscripter and you hit tab, it will automatically give you 4 spaces. That's really easy. You should use it. But just be aware, this is also 4 spaces, 4 taps of the space bar. Okay, so we've seen this particular if statement right here. We can also compare numbers. So suppose I ask what month and then I indicate that I want it as a numeric value. I'm going to put the integer function around this so that it converts whatever is given in to an integer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare to 10 since October is the 10th month. All right, so I can run it again. So what month is it? Well, maybe it's the 7th month. Oh, okay, that's nice. If I run it again, and I actually put in 10, it's going to say I'm excited for Halloween. Fall is my favorite season. Okay, great. So you see that we use this double equal sign to compare both to strings or to numbers, but we have to be in the right type. If I didn't put int around this and I run it, and I type in 10, all it says is that's nice. You might think, oh look, you typed in 10. It says it right here, right? That should be the same as 10. But this 10 and this 10 with quotation marks are actually different. So you have to be careful of this. So I'll go back and put in my numeric values again. Now there's lots and lots of things that we can do with if, and we will see many more examples of that. I'm going to show you one more brief example. So we're going to ask what month again, and I'll keep it numeric. And what I'm going to check, though, is I'm going to check and see if it's the summertime. So we're going to check to see if it is June or July. So June and July are the 6th or 7th months. So I want to see if the month equals 6 or if the month equals 7. All right, and it's pretty much the way we would do it in English. We would say or, and we'll make another comparison to see if month is equal to 7. Students are always tempted to do something like this, if the month equals 6 or 7, because that's kind of how we say it in English typically, but Python needs you to do it this way. In fact, I'll show you what happens if you leave it like this. So this will not work. I mean, it'll run, it just won't do what we think. So if I put in 8 is very much not 6 or 7, and press OK. It says I'm excited for summer. That's not what we want. We only want when it's 6 or 7. So now let me run it again and type in 8 and press OK. That's nice. But if I type in 6 or 7, so here's a 6, I'm excited for summer. Type in 7, I'm excited for summer. Great. So we can use or when we want to check if one or the other thing is true, or both. In this case, they can't both be true, but there might be some situations where both of them could be true at the same time. That's fine as well. Okay, great. Now let's try another thing. What if we want to check if it's Friday the 13th? For that, we don't want to use or, we want to use and, because we need it to be both Friday and the 13th. So I'll have day numeric and say what day is it, so I mean the number of the day. And then I'll ask a second question, and I'll say, what's the day of the week? Oops. And I'll ask what day of week. Okay. So I'm going to be asked for 2 inputs, and I want to check if day numeric is equal to 13, and I want to check if day of week is equal to Friday. And by the way, I'm being very careful about the capitalization here. If I type in Friday lowercase, it will not match this text. I have to match up the uppercase lowercase. So I'll say spooky if it is Friday the 13th. All right, so let's try this out. So what day is it numeric? Well, let's try the 13th. What day of the week? I'll say it's Friday. Oh, of course, that's not a number. I copy and paste error right there, right? I shouldn't have said int, so we'll delete that. And now we should be good to try it again. So it's the 13th, and it's Friday, and it says spooky. And if either of those things is not true, so let's do the 12th, but it's a Friday. Well, that's nice. It's not spooky. What if we type in that it's the 13th, but it's a Monday? Well, that's not spooky either. That's just nice. So we just looked at using and, using or, and a really brief introduction to if. One last thing I want to say, I don't know why you do it in this particular program, but there's lots of things you can do inside of if statements, not just print. We could change the numeric day. Maybe we're very superstitious. We don't want it to be the 13th, so we're going to increase the value of the day. We're just going to skip ahead to the next day. We're going to add 1 to day numeric. And then we'll say, actually, it's the, and we'll convert it to a string and say, we'll add a th on there at the end. So we're going to say, actually, it's the 14th. We don't want it to be Friday the 13th. We're going to change the value. So when I run it, and I say that it's Friday the 13th, this superstitious program is going to say, no, actually it's the 14th. So what we did was we changed the value of day numeric by adding 1, right? We set the value of this variable using the equal sign to the old value of day numeric, right? If we use a variable anywhere other than to the left of an equal sign, and this is a double equal sign, that's different. If we use it anywhere else, we replace that name with its current value, which is 13, and here we add 1, and so now we set the new value to 14, and then we print it out down here and say, actually, it's the 14th.